Before we get into the list, you need to understand exactly why 2026 is the year to act, and what the 2027 cutoff from the Environmental Protection Agency actually means for your wallet. In December 2022, the Environmental Protection Agency finalized what it calls the Clean Trucks Plan. The rule establishes new nitrogen oxide emissions standards for heavy-duty diesel engines, beginning with model year 2027. The new nitrogen oxide limit is 35 milligrams per brake horsepower hour. That is an 82.5% reduction from the current 2010-era standard. As of early 2026, the Environmental Protection Agency has confirmed it is holding firm on both the 2027 timeline and that 35 milligram target. Industry analysts at Rush Truck Centers, Fleet Maintenance, and Tank Transport have all projected that meeting this standard will add between $8,000 and $25,000 to the cost of a new diesel-powered heavy-duty pickup truck at the point of sale. That cost increase does not affect only new trucks. It affects every part in the existing diesel truck ecosystem. Here is why. When manufacturers redesign engines and after-treatment systems to meet a new standard as demanding as this one, they do not redesign them and keep the old parts supply chain running in parallel. They consolidate production capacity around the new architecture. They reduce manufacturing investment in legacy platform components. They redirect research, engineering, and supplier relationships toward the hardware that the 2027 standard requires. The parts for your 2020 diesel pickup truck do not disappear overnight. The economics of producing them shift the moment manufacturing priority shifts. Prices rise. Lead times extend. Supplier relationships that supported those parts consolidate or close. At the same time, the Section 232 tariffs on imported vehicles, steel, aluminum, and auto components that took effect in late 2025 are already building a second cost pressure on top of the supply chain transition. According to Decisive Chief Executive Officer Tim Hardin, in a March 2026 FreightWaves analysis, parts prices get priced upward preemptively the moment distributors and manufacturers anticipate tariff-driven supply disruptions. Tim Hardin said that typically what he has seen is it gets priced into the supply chain, regardless of whether there is a physical impact or not. Parts costs rose in 19 of 25 vehicle system categories tracked in Decisive's benchmark data through 2025. You are not buying into rising prices in the future. You are already in them. The question is whether you buy the 5 parts on this list now or pay 30 to 40% more for them in 2 years. Here is the specific scope of who this affects most. The 2027 Environmental Protection Agency heavy-duty nitrogen oxide standard applies to Class 2B and Class 3 vehicles. That category includes the Ram 2500 and 3500, the Ford F-250, F-350, and F-450, and the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra 2500 HD and 3500 HD. If you own one of these diesel-powered heavy-duty pickups, you are operating inside the exact vehicle segment where the 2027 standard is forcing the manufacturing transition. And the 5 parts on this list are the 5 components with the highest current failure rates, the highest current replacement costs, and the most direct exposure to both the tariff pressure and the 2027 parts supply chain consolidation. Part 1. The EGR Cooler. The exhaust gas recirculation cooler is the single most documented failure component on the 3 primary diesel pickup platforms. The 6.7-liter Power Stroke on the F-250 and F-350. The 6.7-liter Cummins on the Ram 2500 and 3500. The 6.6-liter Duramax on the Silverado and Sierra HD. On all 3 platforms, the EGR cooler routes hot exhaust gases through a coolant-cooled passage before they re-enter the intake manifold. The thermal cycling involved is extreme. Hot combustion gases on one side, engine coolant on the other. Every heat cycle stresses the internal passages. When the cooler develops a crack or fails internally, coolant enters the intake tract. Coolant in the combustion chamber is a catastrophic failure event in a diesel engine. It causes hydrolock. It bends connecting rods. In severe cases, it destroys the engine entirely. An OEM EGR cooler replacement on any of these platforms runs between $800 and $1,500. On the 6.7 Power Stroke and the 6.7 Cummins, mechanics report this failure pattern recurring every 50,000 to 80,000 miles under normal towing and hauling use. That makes this not a one-time repair, but a recurring maintenance cost. Buying a second cooler now at current pricing and storing it for the next replacement interval locks in today's price on a part that is already rising and will continue to rise as 2027 spec after-treatment designs pull engineering and supplier resources away from legacy platforms. The platform-specific sourcing note matters here. On the 6.4 Power Stroke specifically, the EGR cooler is notoriously prone to early failure due to the aggressive exhaust gas recirculation rates Ford used to meet 2007 to 2010 emissions standards. Many experienced 6.4 owners run 2 EGR coolers in the truck simultaneously, replacing them on a scheduled interval rather than waiting for failure and the hydrolock event. The aftermarket responded to this demand with upgraded units from manufacturers like Dorman and Mishimoto, using improved internal flow design to reduce thermal stress. An upgraded aftermarket cooler for the 6.4 Power Stroke runs between $300 and $600, significantly below OEM price, with documented improvement over the factory design. Buying now, before the tariff-driven cost increase fully embeds in aftermarket supplier pricing, is the practical move. The 6.4 Power Stroke is particularly time-sensitive because Ford discontinued this engine after 2010. The pool of available replacement parts shrinks every year without new model year production to replenish supply. Part 2. The Diesel Particulate Filter Assembly. The diesel particulate filter on a modern diesel pickup truck is not a small component. On the 6.7 Power Stroke, the diesel particulate filter assembly sits in the mid-pipe and requires a full exhaust section removal to access. On the 6.7 Cummins, a similar mid-mounted design applies. When the filter reaches a clogging level that the active regeneration cycle cannot clear, the entire assembly must be replaced. Dealer replacement cost for a complete diesel particulate filter assembly runs between $2,000 and $5,500, depending on the platform and the model year. According to Tank Transport's 2027 nitrogen oxides rule analysis, meeting the new standard requires trucks to be equipped with larger capacity selective catalytic reduction catalysts and improved diesel particulate filters, and possibly dual selective catalytic reduction setups. This means the 2027 architecture uses different, more complex diesel particulate filter geometry than the current platform. Suppliers building to the 2027 standard are not continuing to expand capacity for current platform diesel particulate filters. They are redirecting capital toward the new architecture. Purchasing a replacement diesel particulate filter assembly for your current platform truck before the 2027 production changeover locks in a current architecture replacement at a price that reflects the supply chain before the consolidation fully takes effect. The window for that purchase is 2026. There is a second dimension to the DPF calculation that most owners never factor into the cost analysis. Every active regeneration cycle injects excess fuel into the exhaust stream at extreme temperatures to burn accumulated soot. Each active regen cycle reduces fuel economy by an estimated 20% for its duration. On a diesel pickup driven 20,000 miles per year, that fuel burn represents $800 to $1,200 in additional fuel cost annually. That ongoing operating cost sits on top of the eventual replacement cost. The DPF is not just a part you replace. It is a part that costs you money every year you operate the truck through regeneration fuel consumption and then costs you $2,000 to $5,000 when it finally reaches end of service life. Buying the replacement assembly now does not eliminate the fuel cost, but it eliminates the timing risk on the replacement itself, when the most expensive version of that purchase is the one made after the supply chain has already shifted. Part 3. The Diesel Exhaust Fluid System Sensor Transition. On March 27, 2026, the EPA announced the removal of the urea quality sensor requirement from all diesel equipment. The agency directed manufacturers to transition to NOx sensors that measure nitrogen oxides in actual exhaust output, rather than inferring the quality of diesel exhaust fluid. According to the EPA's own press release, this single sensor change is projected to save American truck operators $13 billion annually in repairs and lost productivity. What that announcement means for parts buyers right now is a documented gap in the sensor market. The current UQS sensors used in your 2015 through 2026 diesel pickup truck remain the required hardware for your existing system. Manufacturers are reallocating engineering and production resources toward the NOx sensor architecture required by 2027. According to an April 2026 analysis from Next Move Strategy Consulting, the regulatory shift is already influencing market behavior, with increased demand creating upward pricing pressure on current generation DEF system components. Your 2020 Ram 2500 Cummins DEF system still needs UQS sensors for the foreseeable future. Buying them now, before the manufacturing transition pulls supply away from the current generation ecosystem, is the straightforward economic play. DEF temperature sensors and UQS units for most platforms run between $40 and $90 each. At current pricing, stocking 2 to 3 of each for your specific platform and model year costs $200 to $300. The same set of sensors will cost significantly more once the transition pulls suppliers toward the new architecture. Part 4. The Turbocharger Assembly. Every diesel pickup truck on the road today runs at least one turbocharger. The 6.7 Power Stroke runs a single variable geometry turbo. The latest 6.7 Cummins runs a variable geometry unit. The LML and L5P Duramax both run sophisticated variable geometry systems. The turbocharger is a high-temperature, high-speed rotating component that is exposed to exhaust gases on one side and intake air on the other. Failure modes include worn bearing journals, failed wastegate actuators, and cracked turbine housings from heat cycling. For the 6.7 Power Stroke, turbo replacement runs between $1,500 and $2,500 for an OEM unit installed. For the 6.7 Cummins, similar pricing applies. The tariff situation as of 2026 has already materially affected turbocharger pricing. The October 2025 White House fact sheet outlined a 25% duty on imported medium and heavy-duty truck parts, effective November 2025. According to OnPhase's December 2025 analysis of truck dealer margins, high-value components including emission systems and turbochargers were already seeing new surcharge line items on dealer invoices. A turbocharger assembly sourced before the full tariff impact embedded in dealer and distributor pricing represents a meaningful saving on a component that costs $1,500 to $2,500 to purchase and install on the most common diesel pickup platforms. If your current turbo has more than 100,000 miles on it, this is not a speculative purchase. It is a scheduled maintenance investment with a documented price trend in the wrong direction. The practical pre-purchase checklist for this component is straightforward. Before buying a replacement turbo, have your current unit inspected by a qualified diesel mechanic for shaft play, compressor wheel contact marks, and oil contamination in the intake. Those 3 inspections reveal where the current unit sits on its remaining service life curve. If shaft play is within tolerance and there are no contact marks, your current unit may have another 50,000 miles. Bank that window to source the replacement at current pricing. If the compressor wheel shows any witness marks, that turbo is inside its failure window. Purchase the replacement immediately. On the Duramax LML platform specifically, the turbocharger actuator is a known failure point separate from the turbo assembly. The electronic actuator controls variable geometry vane position and can fail independently of the turbo itself. An actuator failure on an LML Duramax triggers a check engine light and severe power reduction that many owners mistake for a full turbo failure. Actuator replacement alone runs $200 to $400. Stocking a replacement actuator alongside the turbo assembly covers the 2 most common failure modes on this platform for under $3,000 total. Part 5. The engine control module and emissions control software. This is the part that most diesel pickup owners never think about until it fails. And when it fails, the repair bill and the wait time are the 2 most predictable outcomes. On the 6.7 Power Stroke, the powertrain control module and the fuel injection control module are separate units that communicate continuously. On the 6.7 Cummins, The engine control module is a single integrated unit. On the Duramax platforms, the engine control module controls fuel delivery, aftertreatment, and transmission interaction. When any of these modules fails, the truck will either go into full limp mode or not start at all. The module must be replaced and programmed to the vehicle identification number. On 2015 through 2022 platforms, a replacement module from an original equipment manufacturer dealer runs between $800 and $1,500 plus programming labor. The supply chain concern here is specific and documented. As manufacturers develop and certify the 2027 compliant engine architectures, they are also absorbing software engineering resources into the new compliance development process. Support for legacy module programming does not disappear immediately, but the priority of engineering resources follows the regulatory deadline. The further you get from a model year, the more likely you are to find that the original equipment manufacturer dealer cannot source a replacement module within a normal repair timeline. The GML87 engine stop sale in April 2025 demonstrated clearly what happens when a manufacturer's attention is consumed by a product quality crisis on its current platform. Parts support for older platforms. Contracts when engineering and supplier resources are concentrated elsewhere. Purchasing a known good replacement module for your specific year and platform, having it professionally tested and stored, is insurance against the scenario where the original equipment manufacturer parts counter tells you the lead time on your truck's brain is 6 to 8 weeks. That scenario is not hypothetical. During the semiconductor chip shortage of 2021 and 2022, OEM dealer parts counters across the country were quoting 8 to 14-week lead times on engine control modules for diesel pickup trucks, including the 6.7 Power Stroke and 6.7 Cummins platforms. Trucks sat at dealerships, completed in every other way, waiting for a single electronic module to arrive from a supplier whose production capacity was allocated to current model year vehicles first. The 2027 transition creates a structurally similar dynamic. Engineering and production resources flow toward the certification deadline. Legacy platform support competes for attention with compliance development. The owner who has a tested VIN-matched spare module on the shelf does not sit in that queue. The practical approach for this component is to source a known good-used module from a reputable salvage yard or remanufacturer, have it bench-tested and confirmed functional, and store it with your truck's VIN documentation so that a qualified shop can program it immediately when needed. A used remanufactured module for most 2015 through 2022 platforms runs between $300 and $700. Add programming labor of $100 to $200. That is a $400 to $900 insurance policy against a repair delay that costs you the use of your truck for weeks at a time. Here is the documented financial case for acting on this list before the end of 2026. Parts costs rose in 19 of 25 vehicle system categories tracked by Decisive through 2025. The Section 232 tariffs on imported auto components added a 25% cost premium to imported medium and heavy-duty truck parts, effective November 2025. The 2027 EPA NOx standard is confirmed by the EPA at the 35 mg threshold, with cost increases of $8,000 to $25,000 per new heavy-duty diesel truck projected across all major industry analyses. And according to Fleet Maintenance, private fleets are already securing 2026 build slots to avoid the 2027 standard trucks, which means supplier and manufacturer attention is concentrated on 2026 model year production right now. That concentration pulls parts support and pricing stability away from older platforms at exactly the point where you should be acting. The 5 components on this list, an EGR cooler, a DPF assembly, current generation DEF sensors, a turbocharger assembly, and a replacement ECM unit, represent an all-in investment of approximately $5,000 to $8,000 depending on your platform and how many you stock. That is less than the projected cost increase on a single new 2027 standard diesel pickup truck. And unlike a new truck payment, the 5 parts on this list keep your existing truck running in a parts market that is moving against you. The 2027 EPA Cutoff is not a hypothetical threat. The EPA confirmed the timeline in November 2025. The tariff surcharges are already on dealer invoices. The parts costs trend is documented and moving in one direction. The question is not whether the economics of diesel parts ownership are getting worse in 2026 and 2027. They already are. The question is whether you act on it this year or pay the price next year. Have you already started stockpiling parts for your diesel pickup ahead of the 2027 standard? What platform are you running, and what is your first priority purchase? Sound off in the comments, because the community here is building the practical playbook that the dealer service counters will not give you. If you refuse to be on the wrong side of a parts price increase that is already written into the regulatory calendar, hit the subscribe button and join the resistance. Keep the old iron running, keep turning your own wrenches, and we will see you in the next one.